This is Eagle Al, and today I will be talking about Stephen A. Smith believes the Lions will be the dark horse to challenge the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's get straight into it.
Hey, what's up? It's Mauro Jamel. Shout out to Eagle Owl, the biggest Eagles fan out there. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
All right, so this keep popping up on my YouTube feed for some reason, so I decided to watch it. And it says Stephen A. Smith picked the Lions to challenge the Eagles. So I really wanted to hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say, and I'm gonna give my opinion on it. But let's listen to why Stephen A. Smith believed the Lions will challenge the Eagles. But I do think there's a problem. But let's go ahead and get into it.
Our receiver. We saw Jared Goff throw 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, complete about 65% of his passes. The team believes in him. They've got an elevated level of confidence. This is a quarterback that quarterbacked in the Super Bowl a few years back. Their offense was top 5 last year. Their passing game was top 10 last year. Their running game was at number 11 last year. I expect them to do similar things this year offensively. Defensively, let's see what they have with Aiden Hutchinson and those boys. Let's see what they do defensively because they got a lot to prove because they were the 28th ranked defense last year. I get all of that, but I'm just looking at the upside for the Detroit Lions. I like Coach Campbell. Let's see what they do. Let me get to the both of you for a second. First of all,
All right, so that's Stephen A. Smith point. Jared Goff, who had a great year, which went underrated. That's why I don't understand why people don't got him in their top 10. I really like Jared Goff, especially going to Detroit. Pretty much a dead in the waters organization, but to somewhat turn it around, get him somewhat good quarterback play, I think he deserves top 10 or just outside of it at least. But to put him at like 18, I think it's a little disrespectful. He mentioned a run game. They was 11th in the rushing offense, which is cool. That's fine. But the defense was terrible. But I think moves like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, getting Branch out the draft, they made some moves where as though the secondary of that defense can get better. Now, the thing he's not mentioning about Detroit, and this been Detroit problem for decades, is expectations. The word expectations. Anytime expectations in Detroit, try to align, it just don't align. For some reason, that organization is just discombobulated when it comes to expectation. Now, last year they was an underdog. They had one hell of a year. They won a game against the Green Bay Packers to stop them from going into the playoffs. But they did lose pieces like Jamal Murray, DeAndre Swift. They did bring in Gibbs, who I really like. But is Gibbs ready to carry that load? We'll see. Because they had two dynamic guys. I like Jamal Williams. I like DeAndre Swift, who is now a Philadelphia Eagle. But I think the Jameson Williams thing, I think he's going to miss 6 games. That could start them to a slow start. Then they got to play Kansas City very first week. So they got a lot of expectations. That's going to be their problem. But I somewhat agree with Stephen A. Smith. He's not saying they're going to beat the Eagles. He's saying they can challenge them. Because to me, Jared Goff is better than what they got in San Francisco. To me, Jared Goff right now is up there with Dak Prescott. So I will put him slightly ahead of Dak Prescott. They running game is really good. They got an offensive line that is somewhat up there with the Philadelphia Eagles. But the questions they really had was their defense. So I wouldn't be surprised, or this would be a surprising matchup, like NFC Championship game is Lions versus Eagles. I would not be surprised if that happened. I could see the Lions knocking off the Cowboys. I could see the Lions knocking off the 49ers. But the thing with them is when they have high expectations, they tend to fold. I'm not going to get into what these two other guys said. I love Keyshawn. But you're going to see the Saints and Jalen Hurts. The Saints hate Jalen Hurts. They do. For some reason, Jalen Hurts just have their number. And this guy said Green Bay. Now, I like Green Bay to possibly sneak into the playoffs, but to challenge the Eagles, absolutely not. But I think the Lions was a good answer. I think the Lions if they can live up to the expectations, they can knock off some teams. They can knock off some teams because I think they offensively as talented, or can be offensively as talented as the Eagles a little bit. They don't have an A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, but they do got Amon St. Brown, who's really good. Jameson Williams, before I knew he was getting A.J. Brown, somewhat wanted in that draft, who's pretty good. Who else they got there? Shoot, I'm forgetting who else they got there. But they got a couple guys, I will say, that can play. And like I said, they got a very good offensive line. Very good offensive line. That was probably the first offensive line week 1 that really challenged the Eagles defensive line. But I think if it comes down to that, it's going to come down to Jalen Hurts versus Jared Goff. And I just believe Jalen Hurts can make the better throws and is a better playmaker than Jared Goff. So, yeah, man, it'd be great. It'd be epic because then you got Swift going against his old team. You got C.J. Gardner-Johnson going against his own team. It'd be a great matchup, but don't be surprised if it be like a matchup like that. We don't play them during the regular season, but we somewhere we meet in the playoffs, like the championship game. I can see that happening. I can definitely see that happening. But hey, man, what do you think and how do you feel, man, about what Stephen A. Smith said? I agree, I guess, but I just don't think we just got the edge over them. The edge over them is quarterback, offensive line slightly better. I like our receiving core better. Everything is a slight edge over them. Our defense is a big over theirs, but as far as offensive side, everything is a tad bit of a slight edge. But this is Eagle Al, man. I'm out.